So that's 10 in a row now. 10 in a row for the Detroit Lions. They keep doing what they've been doing all season long since the start of the season. But since week 3, 10 wins in a row, Dan Campbell.
Kneecap.
Listen, they bit kneecaps for Thanksgiving, but it wasn't in the traditional sense that the Detroit Lions tend to do. Final score 23-20 Lions. Give the Detroit credit. I thought they'd win this game. I think we all thought the Detroit Lions would win this game. I definitely took Chicago in the points. 9.5 was way too many in a division rivalry, national TV, Thanksgiving. Caleb Williams has been playing amazing as of late. And by the way, I think he showed you a lot of things yesterday. Detroit, to me, is not the story. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Lions are next week against the Packers, beat-up roster. Detroit's not the story. They're great. We know they're great. We didn't find anything else. I thought they played their C-plus game. Still won. Kudos to them. The story is obviously the Chicago Bears and the fact that they need to fire Matt Eberflus effective immediately. The ending of that football game, in every sense of the word, was unforgivable, was indefensible. There is no way that you can possibly put yourself in a position where you look at Matt LaFleur, you look at the Chicago Bears, and how they close that football game and say, good call, coach. So for those that didn't see it, okay, the Bears had the ball, final drive. They got bailed out on a bad pass interference call in Detroit on a 4th down and long. Be that as it may, bad calls happen. It is what it is. There was a bad horse collar call on the Bears on a Jahmyr Gibbs play. The bad calls even themselves out over the course of a 60-minute football game. But we're in a spot with the Bears. They got a 2nd down and 20 from the Detroit Lions 35-yard line. So they are definitely in field goal range. There are 36 seconds left of the clock. The Bears have a timeout, and Caleb Williams takes a sack because the Bears O-line is just atrocious, and we talked about that all season long. He takes a sack. Caleb Williams goes down with 32 seconds left on the clock. Keep in mind the Bears have a timeout. Now, I'm seeing folks in the national media that are, I agree with their bottom line take that it was bad game management by Eberflus, but I disagree with how they would have approached it. See, folks are saying, Eberflus should have called timeout immediately. Totally disagree with that. My thing is, get to the line, get your play, get ready to go, run the play, hope that you get, because at this point, you're at the 41-yard line. Long field goal, but you're in field goal range. Let's see if we can get 10 more yards, make it a little bit easier on our kicker to make it certainly a tough field goal, but easier. Right? Put ourselves in a position we can go to overtime. You run a play, you call timeout so that the kicker has a chance to take a breather. Dan Campbell's probably going to call timeout to ice him. There's going to be a lot of time between the last offensive play and the kick, as opposed to you call the timeout and you're tackled in bounds, or the line's going to play the sideline. You probably going to play inbounds. Now the kicker's going to rush out there. It's just a discombobulated mess. Instead, it was an even bigger discombobulated mess. Because Caleb Williams goes down with 32 seconds. The Bears have a timeout. They run one more play, which Caleb Williams, kudos to him, has the presence of mind. I'm just going to throw something at the end zone towards Rome Odunze. It doesn't work. There's a number of reasons why this is a fireable offense, and we can go over them one by one. But what makes it even worse, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, because if you look at Chicago right now, you're like, okay, there's a world that exists where the Chicago Bears should be 8-4. If you want to say Minnesota, it was an onside kick, kind of a weird ending. Caleb was great, but again, onside kicks, you don't recover those. Fine, let's chalk that as a loss. They should have beaten Washington. Terrible execution on the Hail Mary. We can blame Tyreek Stevenson for being cocky and all that. That cannot happen if you're a head coach. And by the way, a defensive head coach, mind you, is Matt Eberflus. You also talk about the game against the Green Bay Packers. They outplayed Green Bay. Caleb Williams was better than Jordan Love, led the game-winning drive. They get into field goal range with 40 seconds left. It was a 50-plus yard field goal, I believe, for the Bears. Certainly no chip shot. They run one play, bleed it down to a few seconds, as opposed to trying to get maybe a little bit closer so that the field goal does not get blocked. And then you have the game mismanagement yesterday. What makes it even worse, Eberflus is taking no accountability. Listen to what he said after the game about how he handled the final half minute of that football game against the Detroit Lions yesterday. Take a listen.
Again, once it's under 7, you're gonna call timeout there, or actually under 12, and then really you don't have an option. Because it's 3rd to 4th, you got to throw it into the end zone then. So to me, it's I think we handled it the right way. I do believe that you just re-rack the play, get it in bounce, and call timeout, and that's why we held it, and didn't work out the way we wanted it to.
We handled it the right way? Excuse me? We handled it the right way. See, I have a lot more respect for Matt Eberflus, too. I'm sure, he seemed like a nice guy. I got nothing against the man personally. And I'm sure the Bears players don't either. They seem to like him. There was a point in time I thought the Bears had quit on Eberflus. I was wrong on that. They haven't quit on the guy. After the Washington game, and then they had a bad game against the Cardinals, I'm thinking, oh, their spirit's broken. No. They could have easily beaten Green Bay, could have easily beaten Minnesota, could have easily beaten Detroit. All three divisional opponents, there's familiarity there, but still, you're fighting against, at worst, good playoff teams, and at best, title contenders. So kudos to the Bears in that regard. That is the moment the coach takes accountability. That is the moment where he gets that is, we talk about quarterbacks, or at least I do all the time, and how important it is. You are the face of the franchise. You are representing the city, the front office, the locker room, everybody. You are the representative of that. You have to conduct yourself almost in like a statesman-like fashion. Well, the same applies to head coach. I'd say even in a higher regard, because these are majority of coaches, unless you're Sean McVay circa 2017, the coaches are all much older than the players, at least the head coach is in most instances. You got to get up there, step in front of the media. We messed up. By the way, not that Matt Eberflus is telling us that he messed up. We didn't know ahead of time. We know. We'd respect him more if he took accountability as opposed to doubling down and saying, hey, you know what? That's how we intended to handle that. It's just discombobulation, disorganization. Caleb Williams doesn't know what we're calling. The Bears players like, what are we doing? We have a timeout. Are we going to use it? The kicker doesn't know if he's going to act as if. And that to me is the second thing with Eberflus, especially when you look relative to the other coaches in that division. He's not only the worst coach in the NFC North. He's the worst coach by a mile in the NFC North. I think Dan Campbell's the best, followed closely by Matt LaFleur, followed very closely by Kevin O'Connell. All three, in their own ways, exceptional coaches. What Kevin O'Connell's done with Sam Darnold is unbelievable. What Matt LaFleur did briefly with Malik Willis is incredible, and what he's done with Jordan Love's great. And obviously, we've all given Dan Campbell's flowers and how he's turned the Detroit Lions franchise around. You look at Matt Eberflus, what that sequence said, what the sequence at the end against Green Bay said, mismanaging the clock there, what the sequence against Washington, not just the Hail Mary, but folks forget about this. A couple of drives before for Chicago, ran the ball with a tackle at the 1-yard line who then proceeds to fumble. I think it was their center, interior offensive lineman. They didn't look prepared. They're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants right now. And it's reflected in Matt Eberflus's. Shout out to my man, Alfred Parser Jr. I love you, bro. Put together this great graphic about Matt Eberflus. This says it all. Matt Eberflus, for those that are listening to the podcast, 5-19 in one-score games, 3-19 on the road, 2-13 in the NFC North. And I can make a case today that he's got, worst case, the second-best quarterback in his own division. Jared Goff is excellent. But Caleb Williams does things with the football. We saw it yesterday that most other humans cannot do. This is why he was the first pick in the draft. This is why I and a lot called him a generational talent. The arm angles, the movement. There's not that many guys. Mahomes has it. Allen has it. Rodgers in his prime had it. Just a zip. That thing comes out of his hand like bam. Just out. It's out to Keenan Allen, to others in a blink. Great arm strength. Now, the accuracy needs to improve. He's got to improve that in the offseason. I think a better offensive line would help that, but Caleb is still missing some throws that, franchise quarterbacks need to hit. But he's also making some throws that a lot of franchise quarterbacks can't make. Only the superstars do. Like, what this kid is doing is special. By the way, Stephen A. Smith gave this stat today, and it's quite unbelievable. This is amazing, guys. The Chicago Bears are the first team in the Super Bowl era to lose 6 games in a row without throwing a single interception. Think about how bad of a coach you got to be. If your quarterback is posting a passer rating over 100 in the last few games, has played great against a great Packers defense, against an exceptional Vikings defense led by Brian Flores, one of the best DCs in football, and then torching a Lions defense that has been unreal, second-ranked scoring defense in the NFL coming in this game. I've been waxing poetic about Ben Johnson, but Aaron Glenn has been amazing for that Lions defense. Caleb Williams, after a rough first half, was amazing in the second half. Passer running over 100, 3 touchdowns. Could have easily tied the game if for competent coaching. It's disorganization. It's a lack of preparation. It's doubling down at the presser. It's the fact that for the life of him, he cannot win against the NFC North. He cannot win on the road, and he cannot win one-score games. We're 3 years into this, folks. It doesn't work. We see. If you watch the Chicago Bears, you think Caleb Williams is the problem, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not saying anybody's saying that, but you got your guy. Chicago, you've been desperate for a franchise quarterback for years. Bam, you got your guy, number 18, Caleb Williams out of USC. That's your guy. You've got weapons. You have Keenan Allen and djmoore and Dunze. You've got these guys. DeAndre Swift. Chicago is famous for great defenses. Get Ben Johnson. I've heard folks suggest Mike Vrabel. That would be a great hire, and I think Vrabel's great. I'd rather see Vrabel, someone like Philadelphia. I think he'd be an amazing fit with the Eagles. Not that I'm pulling for Philadelphia, by the way. I'm just saying he'd be a great fit there. But you need a creative, offensive mind who knows the way of the NFL. Not an old school defensive coach who has a no feel for offense and no feel for basic game management situations. I mean, I've seen 12-year-olds on Madden manage the clock better than this guy did. Multiple times, like folks are just talking about this game. The Packers game was just as bad. So what is apparent is whether he's fired during the season, I think it's irrelevant because he's going to be fired at the end of the season. But people are going to look back and say, oh yeah, that was the moment. Thanksgiving Day, national audience, you're playing the Detroit Lions, who very well may represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, and you choked. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.